All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 6:01 for the City of Menifee's Parks, Recreation, and Trails Commission meeting, Thursday, August 18th. We want to thank everybody for coming, both of you. But no, it's a good thing. We appreciate the public coming, especially when we want to make sure we're getting information and keeping accuracy, and that's what it's all about. So thank you for taking your time. With that, I'm going to go ahead and ask our clerk to call roll, please.
Commissioner Holcomb.
Here.
Commissioner Croy.
Here.
Commission Chair Zimmerman.
I'm here.
Commissioner Vice Chair Gidroyce.
Here.
Commissioner Rosen.
Here.
All right, thank you very much. And so we're going to go ahead and salute our nation's flag, and if I could, I'd ask Commissioner Rosen to lead us in that, if he would.
All right. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, item 4, Robert, do we have any presentations scheduled?
Not other than those that are on the agenda.
All right, thank you. And we're on item 5, approval of the meeting minutes from August 4th. Does any commissioners have any revisions or modifications to that set of meeting minutes? If not, can I get a motion, please?
I move that we accept the minutes as is.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Rosen, a second from Commissioner Gidroyce. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we're approved unanimously. We're going to now go to our agenda modification. Do we have any changes to the agenda as proposed, as presented?
None.
Okay, thank you. And now we're on public comments, which is item number 7. I want to make sure that everyone who's here who would like to speak to public comments, which is not an agenda item, that you'd fill out a speaker slip now and hand that to the clerk. Have you received any public comment slips, Madam Clerk?
I have, but not for this section, for section 8.1.
So you have one for one of the agenda items, but not for public comment only?
Correct.
All right, thank you. All right, with that, we will move to the next item, which is item 8, and that is one of our agenda items. It's a discussion item, and ultimately, what our role here tonight is to receive and file a report from Valleywide Park District on the landscape conservation projects that are in progress and around the Menifee Lakes community. And then we will also be asked to provide some recommendations tonight. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand that over to our Community Services Director to introduce and let us know what we're doing.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to present this item tonight, and I want to thank representatives from Valleywide, both President Matt Duarte as well as General Manager Dean Wetter for attending today and providing an opportunity to show the Commission what the plans are for the landscaped areas. I'd like to kick that off with a little bit of background on what's happened thus far, and then I know that Valleywide will be coming up to provide the rest of what the plans are moving forward.
And then what we'll do is take public comment after we've heard from Mr. Wetter.
Yes.
Okay.
So some of this is a little bit of a repeat information. You've probably seen it in previous presentations. It was just to give you some context. Valleywide, as you know, is the taxing authority and maintenance authority for several of the right-of-ways and all the parks on the east side of the I-215 freeway. That's essentially included in 3 tax districts known as landscape maintenance districts. And despite the taxing and maintenance authority within the rights of way, those parkways that are plus or minus 12 feet from the curb, that is actually city property, even though it's maintained by Valleywide through those tax districts. Contrary to that, there are obviously several parks, majority of the parks on that side of the freeway, that are actually owned and operated by Valleywide through, again, those tax districts. That essentially is a total of about $3.7 million in annual revenues through the tax assessments collected from residents in those areas. And it's about 40% of the total Valley-wide special district revenue and about 1.7% of the total district's geographic area. And just so you can get an idea visually of what that represents, on the left side, the red area is the total tax districts within the city of Menifee that are part of those 3 LMDs. And then on the right side, in the yellow, is the entire Valley-wide Recreation Park District overlaid on top of the city boundary. And so, just in reference to the specifics on Newport itself, as you've seen going back and forth across Newport, the failures were actually first witnessed by staff at a recommendation actually from one of the city council members. And once that was identified, staff requested that Valley provide some plans for those improvements as they are still city property. And so from there, plans were submitted. First submittal was on May 6th, and then the city did its initial review and returned those comments on the 18th of May. May 25th, at the request of Valley-wide, staff met with Valley-wide consultant to review those comments. May 32nd, second plans were submitted back to the city by Valley-wide. An encroachment permit had been issued in the interim, and then clarified there later that the permit was for the demolition and staging of the maintenance and operation only. And then on June 28th, there was a stop work notice issued to Valley-wide for working without approved submittals on Newport, as the second plans had not been approved. There were still comments being made and corrections being made. And then the latest iteration is, as of July 6th, the city had returned Plan Check Comment 2 back to Valley-wide for revision, and so we're waiting for the resubmittal still.
Mr. Lennox, can you clarify the encroachment permit that was issued to Valley-wide was for Newport Road only, or for all 4 roads, La Piedra, Menifee, and Antelope?
Only for Newport.
Only Newport. Thank you.
And that's, I'm glad you asked that question. This next slide shows the areas in question. This is actually pulled from title sheet of the plan submittal. The dotted area on top shows the scope of work area from Antelope and then eastward over to Menifee Road all along Newport. It does extend slightly on some segments, some cross streets, but for the most part it is within a corridor. And so you're probably wondering, well, the city's authority to require those plans is actually part of the Planning and Zoning chapter of the Menifee Municipal Code. In Chapter 9.86, City Landscape Standards, landscaping irrigation plans for public and private property, public rights-of-way, and public and private parks shall be submitted, reviewed, and approved as detailed within the landscape standard guidelines adopted by Planning Commission resolution, as may be amended from time to time. And it continues that irrigation equipment shall be in good working condition in accordance with city landscape standards at all times, and that medians and parkways shall have separate water and electrical meters and services unless otherwise approved by the city. And so to your earlier question, Chair, the other areas in question are along Antelope, along Menifee, and along La Piedra. As staff noted in early August, there was additional failures in landscaping along those areas in the parkways as the turf, the trees, and the shrubs were stressed and dying. And so a notice of violation was issued to Valley-wide on August 2nd for those. And I'll backtrack just a bit, as when we did meet with Valley-wide on the 25th of May, we did inquire about the condition of those areas, and we're told that those were actually part of a different project. And so we had anticipated a plan submittal for those, but hadn't received them yet. To this day, we still haven't received those.
Okay.
And so the most recent information is that August 15th, the staff did meet with the MWD to review a project that they are the lead on, but have essentially used Valley-wide as the, I guess, surrogate contractor to install a recycle water retrofit project along La Piedra and parts of Menifee Road. And so I want to clarify, though, that is only for the mainline retrofit. It is not for irrigation and planting in the parkways. And so the Valleywide had actually, in response to why those areas had been dying and failing, is because their claim is that the governor's executive order to reduce water usage included a prohibition on irrigating non-functional turf in those areas. And the city's interpretation of that order was that there was an overall reduction mandate, but not a specific mandate on prohibition of turf, non-functional turf, as that is left up to the local water districts to determine and clarify with each of their clientele. And so the city has approached that in a different fashion for all of the city's maintained areas by simply reducing, either in parkways and in parks, the amount of water we put on non-functional turf. And then, of course, when the restrictions were relaxed, we were able to increase the water and irrigation to those areas to make them, or to keep them green. Since then, though, Valleywide has committed to turning the irrigation back on in those parkways, but did clarify that it would be once the recycle water retrofit project had been completed. The staff does recommend that get turned back on now, and that there's some reestablishment of the turf and replacement of any dead and trees or shrubs.
Okay.
And so, as you mentioned tonight, is opportunity to receive and file a report from Valleywide, and then at the end of that, provide a recommendation to staff and/or City Council. So at this time, I'd like to invite up General Manager Dean Wetter to provide an overview on the project from Valleywide.
Oh, great. Thank you, Chair Zimmerman and Commissioners. It's a great pleasure to be here to represent Valleywide, an organization that I'm very proud of. And I've heard some comments that Mr. Lennox made, and I think that it deserves a little preface or clarification on some of the factuals are a little bit selective, and I want to make sure that the Commission has a good understanding of some of the scope from the perspective of Valleywide, and I presume that's why we're here. One, about the 40% of revenue within a district that's representing only a certain smaller percentage of the total district. Factually, this is correct. Our revenues come from community investment and financing, so where the improvements are is where we spend our time, efforts. And so 40% of the revenues represents where 40% of our time and efforts are spent, right here in Menifee. Yes, there were comments returned on Plan Check in July, and we've had subsequent meetings, we've had conversations, we've had Valleywide's legal counsel reach out directly to the city's legal counsel, and to my knowledge, phone calls have not been returned even as of date. So yes, there are different projects. There are 3 projects within this area. These projects are what we believe will be in a manner and fashion that will be allow the Commission and the Council and the community to be proud of. And we understand that Newport Road is an absolute gateway, in particular to Menifee Lakes and the Lakes community, Oasis, and several others. So it's very important to us, as it is to you. And can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, great. So the different phases in the different projects really rely on the first project, right? Newport Road. We're going to model the turf replacement into California drought-friendly planting in the other areas as a model of Newport Road. So to say that we should submit plans for the entire project without having the first project worked out, then you can understand how that's conflicting and difficult. So that's kind of a preface. I wanted to touch bases on those particular facts before I moved into the presentation, simply because I didn't want to miss those, okay? The illustration for you on your monitors and for the community is an illustration. This was an illustration that was requested by the Public Works Director, and we were happy to provide that. This shows a photograph of the brown grass with the variety of plants. It is an illustration only, but that is what's envisioned on Newport Road. So Independent Special District, and for the purpose of some of our residents that are here, I want to spend just a second on definitions. You might hear me use the word potable water, and I know the commissioners and staff know what that means, but really that's drinking water for our residents in the audience. Potable water is drinking water. It is not a recycled water service. So recycled water is important to California landscaping, and we have been a leader in recycled water retrofits, including Wheatfield Park here and also parks and landscaping in other areas. That is essential that we have, or it is essential that we have partners in that, and Eastern Municipal Water District has been a wonderful partner in regards to those programs. Independent special districts, just like Valley-wide, are just as they sound. They're independent. They're independent from other forms of government. Our philosophy is partnerships. Independent special districts are directly accountable to the people they serve. We are a local form of government. We are governed by our own five directors, board of directors, who are elected directly by the voters. We provide a focused service, as you know, Parks and Recreation. And through that focused service, we get a great deal of economies of scale so that we meet the community's needs. The next project slides that we'll go through are exactly as the topic at hand. It has to do with our turf project. We consider this a maintenance project. It is a landscaping project that converts away from wasteful 27-year-old irrigation systems to efficient, California-friendly, and sustainable project. So I'm going to take you through a little tour here, and I'm appreciative of our team who was able to put together illustrations, because this is difficult unless we hop in the cab of the truck and take a ride, but this might help go through the process. This is looking at Newport Road, at Antelope Road. You can see the illustrations there in yellow are the areas that are part of phase one of our project. We're calling this Newport Road. So I'm going to take you through a little storyline through these slides of Newport Road. And again, if we go back to the first phase, this is what we're talking about doing. And there's a little bit more detail for those who are a little bit more engineering driven, and I know there's a few of you out there. So as we go through the project, you'll see the yellow lines are the project area. These are areas of maintenance of which Director Lennox had said we are the maintenance authority of. And this is simply removing turf and putting plants in, getting away from wasteful irrigation systems, and putting in California-friendly, water-efficient plants. These are the areas. You'll notice here on the south side of Newport Road, as we approach Menifee Road, there's a change in color, and I'll explain that a little bit later, but actually I'll explain it right now. That is part of the area that is impacted by the Rite Aid construction. They're widening the road, so it didn't make sense to do plant replacement there in that area until the construction was done. So to be developer friendly, we moved that out to phase 2 of the project. So we get all the way to Newport Road and Menifee Road, and that's where our project stops. The red hashtagging on here is the city's newly created CFD for the Rite Aid project limits. And you'll see a little bit going to the north there that's a different color, a golden color, not a yellow. That is phase 2 Menifee Road. So again, we talked about a little bit more description, and I apologize for, I'm going to fast forward here a little bit to see if the quality is not as good as I expected, but that particular area in Camino Cristal, if you notice on this drawing here that the planting varieties change in size and shape. There's incorporation of boulders and DG where appropriate. And really what our function is in partnering with the city, we do work in 3 cities in the county and unincorporated areas, is we want to make sure that the city has an opportunity to look at the plans to make sure public safety is protected, lines of sight and visibility. These plans do address that. And there's some of our standards about how to plant and whatnot. So I want to point out at this time, we just finished Newport Road, but I want to point out that on the very far right of your slides, you'll see a little red box around a segment. That segment is the trail of the story we're telling. So you're going to watch this segment now start out by the Oasis on Antelope Road, and we're going to head south. So again, on the east side, you'll see that blue hashtag. This is phase 2 Antelope. This is our second phase of the project. Antelope Road and Menifee Road, conversion of potable water, turf, that is being irrigated with 27-year-old technology to California-friendly plants. And so as we go down, you can see that, again, this blue line follows Antelope Road. And for illustration purposes, we'll just keep following it. I think by now you've got the idea of where we're headed. So again, this is where we first started at Newport Road and Antelope, and we're going to continue down past the shopping center to where we get to a break point right here. So again, the blue hashtagged areas are areas of maintenance responsibility. These are identified in the CCRs and other easements and documents that support Valley-Wide's maintenance authority in the area. For now, I'm just going to take a break from this, but I want to point out that we're going to get back to this slide because you'll notice that the purple hashtagging there is where the recycled water infrastructure will stop. So let's go up to Pepita Square, which is on Menifee Road, closer to Aldergate. And we're going to go down that segment and show you that this is Phase 2 Menifee. Again, Antelope Road and Menifee Road will follow the Newport Road project. So this is Phase 2. And as we go down the road, you'll see the areas where we'll be maintaining all the way to Newport Road, where we meet up with the Phase 1 project at Newport Road. So now back to recycled water. So purple is the universal color for recycled water. And so when we see that, it's almost, we're naturally driven to it that that's a sustainable product, it's environmentally friendly, and it's cost effective in Southern California, not just in our microclimates, but throughout the entire southern state for sure. And you'll see that we cover all the areas south of that particular point with recycled water, meeting up with Mount San Jacinto Community College, another great partner. And as we scroll down, we're still moving south on Antelope Road, and then a little bit of a duplicate slide there where we end up right there at the apartment complex. So that will all be recycled water. Now, if you'll join me on the vision back to where the Rite Aid project is on Menifee Road, we're going to follow the recycled water back. So we've got a segment of recycled water, which is just north of the school district offices and south of the Rite Aid project. And we continue past the school property, down into our La Paloma facility, where the park will be completely retrofit to recycled water. And continuing down Menifee Road, there's Wheatfield Park, and there's the project end right there with the boulevard. This is just north of Mount San Jacinto Community College. You can see the large parking lot there and the church across the street. So again, recycled water both sides of the street as we head east towards Wheatfield Park. Now that concludes the visuals of the project. Phase 1 of the project, Newport Road, is currently stopped by the city. We're looking to obtain concurrence from the city to get the contractor back on the job. We want to move forward. Once the stop notice is lifted, I just verified today that our contractor will be back on the job in 48 hours. This project is estimated to be completed within 45 days, and as of today, the project should have been done almost a month ago. A month ago, we would have started our project planning for Phase 2. The recycled water project, I am also very pleased that EMWD and Valley-Wide are again partnering. That project is out to bid for a conversion to recycled water. That project will be awarded on September 19th with an estimated construction period of 60 days. We do have some options in regards to that project to help expedite the project and the visuals for the community. I hope you can understand how difficult it is in an inconsistent environment. Phase 2 cannot be planned for until Phase 1 is moving. And I don't think we would be here talking about these projects if Phase 1 was done and the community saw progress on Phase 2 and Phase 3. So I have a request of the Commission that the Commission recommend to City that the stop work notice and subsequent notice of violation, which I think we can all kind of agree that is somewhat insulting, be lifted and the work get back on schedule. Again, our contractor can start work within 48 hours. I think we all understand in the profession that landscaping does show stress, especially in the summer months. But sometimes I think that Valleywide's being treated unfairly. And does the city provide notices of violation to their own landscaping that may show stress or be deficient? It is also our hope and our request of Valleywide that the commission support this project by issuing a letter of support of the project to Metropolitan Water District and their Water Smart program. The compliance date to receive rebate monies, which is a direct benefit to the residents of Menifee, is closing in on us very fast, and without an extension, that benefit of almost $50,000 will be lost. The discussion of the homeowners association, I think it is of interest to homeowners associations, and the comments on the plan check of why this project is not moving forward. In particular, the homeowners associations paying attention to this on the east side, and as to how homeowners associations and properties and subsequent irrigation systems are being treated on the west side of Menifee. We mentioned the Rite Aid project. The commission should know that the city directed that contractor to abandon a meter that is specific to serving landscape. That contractor was ordered to remove that meter. After we've had meetings in regards to how important it is to protect meters and irrigation control wires in place. I can't help but deduce that this is a stall tactic to make Valleywide look bad in the eyes of our common residents and constituents, make us look bad during the pending detachment application process, which has been brought to my attention. Valleywide's here to do a job for the community, and we're here to communicate with you and ask for your help. Let's move this project forward, and I'm here to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Wetter. So what we'll do now is just go ahead and kind of keep it behind the rail, but we'll allow the commissioners to ask Mr. Wetter, and if you would stay up at the podium, please, because I believe there may be questions coming your way. So who would like to start?
When do we do
We're going to take public speakers in just a minute. Yeah. As soon as we're get through with the questions. Yeah, because I think we may have questions for our own community services director as well. So this is the time to ask away. So who wants to start? Commissioner Gidroyce, the floor is yours.
Dean, thank you for coming out tonight. In looking at my notes, I understand one of the areas that there's disagreement was Blue Lock slip fit irrigation components, which don't conform to the city's standards. Can you fill us in on if that is what you intend to use if you go forward again?
Appreciate the question. In meeting with staff, I believe there should be some give and take meeting with city staff. Valleywide has committed to changing that out. However, it is a standard that we believe is in the best interest of the maintenance practices for the project. So as a concession to the city, we've agreed to increase the cost of this project by about $37,000, $38,000 and provide the fittings that are non-slip joint or Blue Lock. It's not our preference. We believe that the flexibility of that system is exactly what's designed for retrofit projects. We know that it is currently being used in Temecula. It's a solid standard in Marietta, and it's also being used in other surrounding cities and districts as well. It's a product that is of good nature for retrofit development. It's flexible, and it's a product that would work well in this particular project.
Thank you for that. Robert, is that one of the major points that would stop the project?
It is one of several plan check comment items, and it, to be consistent with the same landscape detail standards that this commission recommended for council approval and that planning commission also adopted, to make that exception would be in contrary to what was adopted by the code.
Okay, so by Valleywide agreeing to use the product that the city wants, we can take that item off the list of things that are holding things back.
Correct, and so we would anticipate seeing that on that third plan submittal.
Right, and that would be the next question. Do you have another plan submittal underway? Where are you with that?
I think the larger issue, and thank you for the opportunity on that, I think the larger issue has to do with the segregation of systems, in particular as it relates to the HOA and the HOA's input in regards to that. The total cost of addressing the plan check comments increased our project by an additional $380,000. And so that has been a major issue in regards to how do we conservatively protect the public financing of these projects. And so these increased costs, $40,000 doesn't sound like a lot, but if you start adding that to a project, even for just the change out of the fittings, this is a public benefit project, and so where we can save money, we want to. So yes, that is one area that we're willing to change out on this particular project. The plan checks, I think, the plan check submittals, there's other issues that need to be resolved before we can submit a plan check for Plan Check 3. And it mainly has to do with the separation and independent water systems for properties that are just outside of the right-of-way.
So is that being looked into, or where does that stand, please?
The last meeting we had just this week with the city is requesting that the homeowners association and the city and Valleywide is also invited is to sit down and talk about that. In regards to, I mean, this really has to do with putting the financing ownership of maintenance responsibility on the homeowners association. And I imagine you heard the comments or read the article in regards to that. There's some concern. And we support our HOAs because they are also partners. And we never want to see any entity go bankrupt. I think it's also important that I'm looking at the negative declaration for the city of Menifee and corporation. And on page 4-25, it says the Valleywide Recreation and Park District currently provides park and recreation services to area east of the I-215. LAFCO expanded the sphere of influence to include all proposed incorporated areas. I lost my train of thought here. Hold on one second. My highlight moved out. My apologies. Incorporation would not include any changes to the current Valley-wide Recreation and Park District boundaries. The district would continue to provide services within its territory. To all residents, including the HOA, which is defined as in the CCNR documents, that we're the maintenance entities for those areas, from back of curb to face of wall.
What I'd like to do, and I think everybody might agree, is to point by point go over these things. We've covered the blue lock. I was asking about the relationship with the HOA. There was something about a landscape architect having to be licensed. Is that certified, I think is the term. Is that resolved? Was that ever an issue?
Well, in regards to that, I do believe that it is an issue and it isn't an issue.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, again, Valleywide's cooperating to provide information to the city. Our original bid document showed the areas of improvement, and there was a 3-page document that said what needed to be done in that area. We provided all the plans in regards as a courtesy to the city.
So from what I understand, pardon me, from what I understand, if Robert could clarify, the city requires these plans. It's not a courtesy. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to hog the mic. Is there somebody else who'd like to talk?
Well, you got the floor, so go ahead, and then we'll
Okay.
move on after your...
Well, those are so at this point, that hasn't been settled about a certified architect being on the paperwork, having drawn up the the plans?
I don't see that as a concern for Valleywide.
Okay, the city apparently requires that.
Oh, I should make sure that I'm accurate in my statement back to you, Commissioner. Valleywide can take care of that. We can consent to
Okay.
that.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do, is just go over these points, because if you're going to ask us to recommend to council that this stop work order be rescinded, there have to be clarification on how these are going to be resolved. That's about all I wanted to ask about Newport. I will hand off to anybody else who'd like to talk about the other parts of the projects, the other projects.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Gidroy. Let's go ahead and give the floor to Commissioner Holcomb.
Dean, thank you for speaking with us tonight. Has there been any history of Valleywide receiving stop notices or notices of violation for projects in the past?
It's been very infrequent considering the amount of work that we've done. It has not been a consistent pattern at all.
Thank you.
Commissioner Croy?
My concern here is this, is that number one, it looks like heck. Number two, I believe the communication on your end to the city has been extremely poor. And I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say it, I don't know why, for the life of me, I'm looking at hundreds of dying trees up and down Menifee Road every day when I go to work, and nothing's being done about it. And it's a he said, she said, and I understand that. However, a responsible organization wouldn't let that happen. And I feel that the communication has been extremely poor on Valleywide's end. These plans should have been submitted to the city a long time ago for approvals before anything ever happened. Everything should have been signed, sealed, and agreed to. Am I correct in assuming that from the curb to the wall is city property on Newport Road?
It is not consistent from end to end, but the majority of that space is. It is contingent upon the engineer's documents for each section or each annexation.
So I understand.
Yeah.
Depending on where it is. And
Correct.
part of it could be HOA or part of it could be.
Correct.
But the overriding complaint that I'm hearing is people don't care who it belongs to. It just looks terrible. And it's devaluing people's properties. If I had a home along Newport that was for sale now, it would be devalued because of the way it looks. And forgive me if I'm being tough, but I just feel that this is a horrible situation and needs to be rectified immediately. I don't understand for the life of me why those trees can't get some water. I don't even know if they're recoverable right now. If they die, is Valleywide going to pay for them? Because it was not mandated from Governor Brown to turn off the water. It was mandated to reduce, not turn off. So those are my comments.
And I agree with most of those. Commissioner Rosen?
Thank you. Again, Dean, thank you for coming. I just have a couple of questions regarding your Blue Lock system. Are you using it anywhere else?
No, it is a new specifications for retrofits.
So you're starting it here? You
Well,
were going to start it within Menifee?
Yes, from the experience that we see with surrounding cities, even on new installations. And that's not uncommon for landscape products to be incorporated in as new technologies.
And the reason I was saying that is you can understand the city's point. They don't have anything about it. They don't know anything about it. They would have, if there was an issue with it, they don't have parts. They don't have knowledge of it. They don't use it. So I'm really very glad that you have agreed to go back to the city's drip system. I was just curious about where you were using it.
May I respond to that, Commissioner?
Please.
Valley-wide is the maintenance authority for landscape and the maintenance of its irrigation systems in its area or territory that it serves. So if there were a failure of a coupler or a failure of a product there, we would have many different recourses for that. But we are the maintenance entity. So it kind of leads me to believe that the city is proceeding as if the LAFCO detachment process has already been decided. This is a valley-wide maintenance area, and we would make sure to maintain those fittings as the product is designed. That's what a responsible agency would do. So
And
thank you
we
for your
would
comment,
keep you to it.
Commissioner.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. And I have a couple questions myself. Mr. Wetter, so we heard that $3.7 million has been collected annually. Those taxes are being collected by the taxing authority, which is Valley-wide. And it's collected from those 3 landscape maintenance districts. And I'm assuming that the amount that's being collected is based on estimated costs for irrigation and things like that. And with the water being shut off, I guess one of the questions I'm asking is, how long has the water been shut off? And I'm assuming there's a significant savings in what you normally would have been paying the water district for that water. And so are these taxpayers going to be reimbursed for that amount of money that's been saved? And can you answer my question about how long has the water been turned off on? I'm looking at Menifee Road, for instance, and the medians and the parkways especially are brown, and the trees look like they haven't had any water in a long time. Can you answer the question about when?
Sure. Though I can't specify the exact date, it was earlier this year. I want to say March or April. I would want to go back and check and see when we actually performed that. But you should know that it seems like having a condition in the field as such would be a cost savings and a maintenance savings, but you probably can understand that it's not. It requires us to water trees by hand with water buffaloes. It requires us to do trash pickup more frequently, because let's face it, if there's a snicker wrapper on that turf, it stands out like a sore thumb. So it is not a savings from the cost of the overall cost. There is a water savings, and that benefit is directly incorporated into the project costs. And that's why every benefit that we have goes into this project to convert it, because that's why we're doing it. We're doing it to save water, to save constituents, and provide benefit at the lowest cost possible and the value at the highest possible. The $3.7 million, can you refresh my memory on what the question was? I blanked out on that.
I was just making a statement that quite a bit of money has been collected from taxpayers in those LMDs, and I was assuming that you're probably saving some money by not irrigating, and could those savings go back to the taxpayers who the money was collected to pay for the water that never got purchased?
And I think that the answer to that is that the savings of the water bills, that is going right into the benefit of the project itself.
Okay.
And remember, we've got 2 ways to look at water consumption. One is there's a savings because you're not using a lot of it, right?
That's what I'm assuming.
The second part of it is that if we were using it, at what rate would we be paying for it? It's not at the rate that it used to be at. It is at the Tier 5 rate as those water budgets are figured. So we have to be very mindful of that not only are we talking about sustainability and the environment, we're talking about financial stewardship. And in 27 years, Valley-wide has demonstrated to our ratepayers or constituents that we will not levy more than what's needed to do the job. And though there is $3.7 million in levies in the total Menifee area that we service, please understand that the probable cost of doing that work as a maximum community financing district is $6.3 million. So we are levying and doing the work at a reduced rate. We're only levying what it takes to do the job. And that is also identified in the LAFCO detachment application by the city. We
Thank
will
you.
not levy more than what's needed.
Thanks for addressing my question. I have one more for you, and then I think there's a couple more questions from the commissioners, but you had mentioned earlier that Phase 2, 3, and 4, they can't start until Phase 1, which is Newport Road, is complete. Can you explain why that is?
The Phase 2 projects are broken out into two areas. Phase 2 Antelope Road and Phase 2 Menifee Road, because they follow the same planting palette and plan as Newport Road. So it would be a inefficient use of resources to prepare a plan when we don't have the move or the go-ahead on the first plan. Does that make sense?
Somewhat. I mean.
We're going to model Phase 2 after Phase 1, so let's get Phase 1 done.
Okay.
Yeah.
If Phase 1 has a hangup, can you start on Phase 2 and let that be the model for 1? I mean, we know that there's holdups that may not be the same holdups on those other phases, and the holdup is on Phase 1, and so it's holding everything up. So I'm thinking we go around 1 and start with 2 and 3 and 4 if those aren't being held up for the same reasons.
I'm glad you offered that. The Phase 3 of the project is currently out to bid and will be fast-tracked
Good?
with the approved EMWD plans. The Phase That's amazing how I just Phase 3 is currently out to bid and will be awarded in September. Phase 2 could move forward with the exception of there's also some complicated areas within that as well. And so because in one of the factors that I tried to drive home earlier was Newport Road is special to us because we have been able to receive one grant of $50,000 from WaterSmart for improvements along streetways. That grant was awarded to Menifee area. So without this project getting approved and moving forward, that benefit will be lost to Menifee. So our focus has been on Newport Road.
All right. Thank you for answering my questions. I'm going to kick it over to, I don't remember which one of you went first. Who wants to go?
May I?
Go ahead, Marty.
Dean, since you have said you are the maintenance people, and we've lost a considerable number of trees along the area we're talking about in Phase 1. In fact, I was told, I believe, that you removed a whole batch of trees. I assume you're going to replace them?
To directly answer your question, we did remove a batch of trees on Menifee Road. They were diseased.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
And
not
so those
arguing that.
those trees will be replanted, of course.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah. And we are currently, for the benefit of the commission and the public as well, we are currently launching graphic information systems within our district. And this is a technology, a visual technology. In fact, you kind of see a little glimpse of what GIS can do as far as telling a story of what we're doing. And the trees are currently being categorized and inventoried throughout the entire district to determine not just health, but age and condition, so that we can use this information for planning purposes.
Thank you.
But the sooner these projects get moving, the sooner those trees get in better
Oh,
shape.
I understand, and the sooner you have the water to water them with, I understand that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Tom.
Two questions. Dean, you said to get the first project going, there needs to be a meeting between the HOA, Valleywide, and the city. When is that supposed to take place?
I know that the homeowners association was invited to participate in a meeting with the city, of which Valleywide would be invited to talk about the maintenance costs or some type of arrangement in regards to areas out of the direct public right-of-way. So if I can kind of categorize for a minute what we're talking about. There is a term, public right-of-way. That right-of-way extends in a certain degree or footage behind a roadway depending on the roadway's purpose, if it's a collector or a major arterial or whatnot. Sometimes they vary a little bit. So for the purposes of Valley-wide, again being here at the onset of the development of Menifee Lakes and the Lusk development, Valley-wide was incorporated and brought into that project to be the maintenance entity of the entire visible right-of-way, so to speak. What people see when they drive down the road. So if there is a gap this wide or 14 feet wide, it's maintained by the same entity. It provides cost-efficient planning as far as installing of water services, points of connection, irrigation. You can imagine the economies of scale of doing it that way. Article 9 of the HOA CCNRs, of which Valley-wide is part of, it says the master association's responsibility under this section shall cease to any such district property or portion thereof on the date on which the maintenance responsibility therefore is transferred to Valley-wide. Provided, however, that the master association's responsibilities shall, to the extent applicable, be reinstated if Valley-wide ever formally discontinues all or any portion of its district property maintenance responsibilities. Valley-wide has since, as part of the development process, incorporated transportation corridor, which is Newport Road, into its engineering assessment reports. So the community finances already the maintenance of those areas. To further clarify the description of the district property in Exhibit C of the CCNR says, Valley-wide, as applicable for the purpose of maintaining improvements thereon, which means we have an easement to do that work. So we are the responsible entity. There's some more detail in this book that I have here. I don't want to bore you with it, but it goes back to the original irrigation installation plans. And so it's important to understand the history of this, is that this particular issue is one that was a community benefit and continues to be a community benefit if managed correctly. And we believe that that is. And these conditions also exist on the west side in new developments, the same condition.
So what are you going to key into in this meeting, and again, is it scheduled?
The city of Menifee is the lead on that agency. We're available.
Okay. So the city has to come forward with a date.
Correct.
And the agenda will be to discuss the relationship between these three entities as far as who's paying for what, in simple terms.
In simple terms.
Okay, one last question. You mentioned the cost of watering trees is expensive. We shouldn't forget that there is a cost of that. Are those trees being watered that Rick was talking about?
Yes, they are.
Okay,
Yes. Every Wednesday, there is a water buffalo and hand watering of the trees.
okay, thank you very much.
And just to piggyback off that, so as you were going through your slideshow, and appreciate you guys putting that together for us, very helpul. There were some areas where there was parkway, the 12-foot that's shown in a color or a phase, cross-hatching there, but in some places there were areas where there's some more turf, and I'm assuming that beyond your 12-foot parkway right-of-way, that some of that might be HOA property, but my question is as far as like the meter or as far as the landscaping and things like that for watering, is that all being borne by Valley-wide, and you guys are kind of doing a little bit more than what's required and kind of doing some watering in some of those HOA areas and doing some landscaping in those HOA areas? Is that, am I seeing that correctly? Or, because I can't imagine that you're just going to stop at 12 foot and not pick up an extra 4 feet here and there, or have some bushes that are on your meter that may be outside of your 12-foot parkway. Can you address that?
Yeah. I love the fact that you brought that question up, because it points to the confusion that we're dealing with that the community's dealing with in this process. We believe the CCNRs with the HOA that identifies us as the maintenance authority of this area is really clear about what to maintain. Newport Road, back of curb to perimeter wall. There's no confusion about 12-foot or whatnot. This is the maintenance area that has been established by the engineer's report and funded by as a community benefit. And I believe it is a community benefit. I think we all benefit from the landscaping, the beautiful landscaping that should be there.
Agreed.
And the district property in this exhibit in the CCNR has been provided to the city. It's also lengthy and provides some other descriptions, but I don't really want to, if you have a specific question, I can probably answer it right here on the spot.
So,
It's also important to realize that there are 95 special districts that do this work within California. And valley-wide standards and specifications have not only been used by the city of Menifee, but they've also been used by a number of different special districts providing park and recreation services. So we believe our standards and specifications really meet the needs of drought-friendly, water-resistant, and long-term maintenance practices.
So are you in agreement then that in most places there is that, just like you described, curb to wall, there's your 12 feet, that's yours. But in some places there are areas that pop out and have grassy turf and as well as landscaping areas that are beyond your parkway limits, is that correct?
That we maintain?
Yeah, that you guys are watering, that you guys are...
Pepita, sure.
Yeah.
Desert green?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, those are parks, yeah. Not established as ornamental turf.
Is that going to be needed to be part of a discussion with the HOA if it's their responsibility, but you guys are handling the responsibility, or an agreement, or something along those lines that makes it fair so that, it all comes down to who's paying for what kind of a thing, you know what I mean? And so if you're the taxing agency who's collecting funds to do what you're doing, but you're going beyond your scope and maybe someone else should be responsible for that, it's not fair to those that are being taxed. So I imagine that's going to be part of the discussion when you do sit down with the HOA and kind of map out some of those locations that I'm talking about. And again, it's not all of it, but there are some pockets here and there that I've seen as you went through your slideshow. So maybe I'm not being clear. All right, we'll move on. Director Lennox, do you want to chime in?
Sure. To help shed some light on the pending meeting that's forthcoming, that's correct. We met earlier this week and agreed to providing an alternative to the separation of meters, irrigation systems, utilities that Mr. Wetter had characterized as a large expense. And that alternative included identifying the separation, the variance between what is in the right-of-way, part of the LMD tax district, versus what is HOA owned property, but happens to still be maintained by Valley-wide.
That's exactly what I was just saying.
Correct.
So I'm not out of my mind.
No, you're correct in your interpretation, and we've started that analysis and determined that, as an example, for Menifee Lakes, the Menifee Master Association alone, in this Newport corridor, that constitutes approximately 44,000 square feet.
Wow.
And so that's just one of the private property owners. There are, I believe, 4 others that are also impacted, and we have square footages for those as well. Next step will be putting together budgets for what we believe the annual maintenance or monthly maintenance would be on those, and then sitting down with those groups as well as Valley-wide to really forge a path forward. And then I think to a comment that was made earlier regarding the incorporation of those, I'll call them variance areas, into the annexations and the engineers' reports for the district. As we also have the same responsibility for special tax districts in other areas of the city through CFDs, through CSAs, and also through LLMDs. anytime we're going to modify an area for incorporation into and increasing the maintenance obligation, if it significantly expands beyond what was in the original engineer's report, sometimes it can constitute a vote of the public who pays into it. And so I don't know if that's occurred in the past, which would then obviously provide that additional authority to expend those tax dollars collected on those private property areas. But that's something that would also need to be vetted as well. And then there still is a discrepancy between the responsible areas that are listed in the CCNRs, in this case just for the Menifee Masters Association, and what's in the engineer's reports for those areas. They don't all match up, and so there's a few things to still get through before we.
And do you intend to work those out as part of that meeting that Commissioner Rosen was asking about?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. You articulated that very clearly, and it's exactly what I was asking. So thank you, Robert. Commissioner Rosen.
I just want to expand just a little bit and ask Robert just one question. In effect, then, instead of doing it via taxes, the HOA could make an agreement, either with you or with Valleywide, pay some fee, and have their separate owned area taken care of.
Correct. It would then suggest they would pay a fair share of the maintenance costs
Some amount.
and
that's
utilities.
agreed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Croy.
Thank you. One question for you, Dean, also is for some clarification, because I've always been confused about this. Valleywide is as you said, it's an independent local form of government. Who is your overarching authority? Is it the state?
We were created by the people through the legislature.
So the
So
state.
we are exactly like any other form of government.
Okay.
To say that we work for the state or are under the umbrella of the state, we
Mhm.
are authorized to be in existence through a legislature action, but we are not a branch of the state government.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, any other questions from commissioners? Very good. Mr. Wetter, thank you. Sometimes you might have felt like you're on trial or something like that, and
Sure.
I apologize for that. You had kind of made a few statements that raised some flags, and so I think we were addressing the flags that got raised from your statements. So, but anyway, thank you, and appreciate you being here and sharing the thoughts from the perspective of Valleywide Parks and Rec District. With that, we're going to go ahead and open up to the public. I noticed a few new people have come in, so just so you know, if you want to speak, please fill out a speaker slip. You get 3 minutes, and I would love to hear from members of the public. So,
Our first speaker is Carl Scherstrom.
give them to the clerk, please, and then they'll work their way around. Yeah, thank you.
All right, my name's Carl Scherstrom. I've lived in Menifee for 25 years, and if you follow La Piedra down where it hits Menifee, I live right there. So I'm in the middle of this mess, and I see it every day, and for the last 8 years, it seems to be getting a lot worse. So, Mr. Croy, you pretty much took the wind out of my sails because you said everything I wanted to say. So, just real quick, District 3, Lisa Sobek District, we have about 1,850 homes. We pay Valleywide approximately $500,000 a year, which is about $2,000 a day. So after 27 years, I would expect Menifee to look really nice. And it looks like a beginning. It looks like a disaster. So pretty much they've devastated our whole area there. I don't know why they would shut the water off and do a whole total project and not just start one small area at a time and leave all the rest of the landscape. I would never do a project like that. So the whole area is just devastated. All my neighbors are upset. I mean, I went to a homeowners association meeting the other night, and everybody was upset about this. Okay, so I do have some pictures. Can we turn this back on? Thank you. Okay, so it's a little glossy there, but if you can see that, that's going down the freeway. You can see our golf sign there. We're trying to get taxes for Menifee, and I don't think by seeing that sign no one wants to play golf. And if you did, that's what you would see when you turn the corner to go into our country club. So I don't think we're going to get a lot of people wanting to play golf. Okay, so the bottom is Temecula. That's their water fountain. And you can see people wanting to take pictures there, families wanting to get their portraits done. And that's our fountain. And I don't think you'd want to get your portrait taken there. That's pretty embarrassing. It's green. We used to have nice lights that lit up all the palm trees. There's no palm trees there anymore. That is just one of the lights that's supposed to light up the palm tree. Hopefully nobody touches that because that's wide open wires. Okay, this would be Red Hawk. I'm sure if you played golf or even gone down to Temecula, that would be what it looks like when you go to one of their, I don't know, right going into their country club. And there's Mira-Lago, and that's Valley-Wide's new landscape. So you can see the difference, a lot of difference. I don't understand these plants you could buy at Lowe's for $2 each. So there's probably about $100 worth of landscaping there. This was the first day at school at Menifee. This is what the kids saw, the parents saw when they came up to Cali Kirkpatrick. And this is Temecula's school, or their first day. And you can see the difference in landscaping. I don't see why we can't have that or shouldn't have that. That's all drought tolerant. We were talking about the trees that got taken out. That is a whole road that got taken out. Not from disease, lack of water. And this is La Piedra, right across the back of my house. There's an empty lot, La Piedra, Menifee. All the landscapers are starting to just dump junk in that field. I'm not sure if anybody drives around and looks at all this, but now here's just some of the homes. They're not getting cited. I don't know why. It looks terrible. This is the estates. I live in the estates, and there's 4 or 5 homes that look like this. I mean, there's trash in their house. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. Here's a bunch of the new landscaping that they're putting in. That doesn't look good. That's bark. If it ever does rain, that's just going to wash out. It looks terrible. This is just dry. They don't even water this. So it's new landscaping that doesn't even get watered. Two more. This is, I'm sure you know where this is. This is Scott Road, the off-ramp. And this is Moreno Valley's off-ramp. It's beautifully landscaped with bougainvilleas. And it's not saying a whole lot for our community.
Just a reminder that you have 3 minutes
Okay,
as a speaker.
last one. Saw this today. I drove around with my wife. this is what our community is going to end up like if we don't do something. You know, you got to figure, it's not funny, I wouldn't want to be that guy. You got to figure our home's value, 10% of it, at least 10% is the community. And my house is probably a $500,000 house, so that's about $50,000 related to the neighborhood. I don't think I'm going to get $50,000. I think we're losing it. So, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you
I
so much
appreciate
for
it.
coming today, Mr. Scherstrom. We appreciate you taking your time and sharing those photographs with us. Can we have our next speaker, please?
We have one more speaker, Mr. Matt Dwardy.
Good evening. My name is Matt Duarte. I'm a local attorney, president of the board of directors for Valleywide Recreation Park District, and most importantly, a Menifee resident. And I'm very upset. I've attended several of your commission meetings, given public comment on occasion, and watched your meetings online. And over the past year and a half, I've observed a troubling trend, in my opinion. During that time, your director, Mr. Lennox, has demonstrated himself capable of accomplishing one singular task, and that's blaming other people. First, he blamed the county, then it was Valleywide, then contractors, and now we're back to Valleywide. So it's on and on again, every week, the same story. The picture I put up here, you can see, that's Audi Murphy last month. So whose fault is that, Robert? Is there a notice of violation recorded against Audi Murphy? But let's talk about tonight, because tonight was yet another example of Mr. Lennox's lack of leadership. He spoke for about 20 minutes, exclusively devoted to pointing fingers rather than providing any semblance of a solution to the problems. Mr. Lennox has known about this issue for 4 months and done absolutely nothing to keep this project moving. It's not complicated. It's pulling up grass and putting in plants. I don't know why we're making this convoluted and complicated. Yes, Mr. Lennox has muddled this issue so thoroughly with so much red tape that our community has suffered as a result. And you should know that Valleywide has just sent out similar retrofit projects, particularly in French Valley, and we expect them to be done in weeks, not months. So, you know, the taxpayers here in Menifee, we pay you handsomely, Mr. Lennox. Just last year, you see, it was $188,000 to be exact. You should know Mr. Wetter manages 82 parks, aquatic facility, golf course, and he doesn't make as much as Mr. Lennox, who oversees 6 parks. So I think that's particularly interesting. And you know, you don't even live in our community, and you make probably twice the median household income of our region. And this is what we're getting for our money. So since you're incapable of providing solutions, I'll give you guys some free advice. Since Mr. Lennox didn't talk about the plan check comments that he provided, there were inconsistencies between the first plan check and second plan check. I'm not sure where or why they were created in the second plan check, but essentially the maintenance of the HOA property, the city says the HOA should pay. Valleywide says the HOA doesn't have to pay, and that position has implications throughout HOAs in our community, including where I live, Heritage Lake, including, I think, Oasis. But I think a simple solution to that, if you're concerned about liability for dealing with HOA property, is to indemnify the city, have the HOA agree to indemnify for any claims resulting from the use of that property. That means that there's no additional expense to the HOA, and it resolves that liability issue. This is very simple. The plan check also mentioned some issues with the plant pallets. These are the same plants you see all over the east side of Menifee, and requiring a change actually encourages inconsistency. So, simple solution, grant a variance for the stupid plants, lift the stop notice, and get it done. This is not complicated. This is simple. So I think I still have some time left, so I'll solve some other problems. The city has a problem with their general fund and wants to raise taxes. How about instead dissolve Mr. Lennox's department that operates at a net loss, that cost the general fund approximately $1 million a year.
That concludes the 3 minutes. Sorry.
And I understand Mr. Shortstrom had more time and he wasn't.
I'll allow Mr. Doherty to continue, but please work towards wrapping it up, okay?
Sure. I just think, I think we'd rather be better served spending that money on police rather than a department that creates this type of red tape for our community. And in conclusion, Mr. Lynch, you've had this turf removal project on your desk for 4 months, and you've done nothing to move it forward. In a little over 3 minutes, I've solved all the world's problems and did much less than $188,000. So thank you, guys.
Thank you for speaking, Mr. Doherty.
We have one more speaker.
Okay.
Isabel Edmiston.
You might want to pull the microphone down. There you go.
Good evening. I've been here in Menifee since 1991, in Menifee Lakes, and I'm just wondering, why do I hear about more money to be collected already before anything has started? We're talking about projects that reflects saving water, no mowing grass, but we're already talking about we're going to add more fees to the association. The city is going to probably tax us more because I hear that right now the Menifee Valleywide collects $3.7 million, and I believe, I don't know if I misunderstood, he's projecting that if it goes to the city of Menifee, it will cost $6.3 million, or maybe I misunderstood, I'm not sure. So that means that there's already a plan that we are not just going to pay more association, but we're going to pay more in taxes for the city of Menifee. I don't see how. And we have a lot of seniors living here and people that they can afford continue these increases. And that's what I want to say. That it's going to be very tough for people.
All right,
you.
thank you so much. We appreciate you being here tonight. Can I have her last name again?
Edmiston. I may be mispronouncing it, but it's spelled Edmiston.
Thank you.
And that is all for public speakers.
Okay, thank you very much. So at this time, what we'll do, if the commissioners want to make any last comments, now would be okay time. Yeah, we'll close our public comment portion and yeah, and so let's just try to wrap it up by just making any final comments if you have them, and again, we're looking to provide a recommendation, and I really think that it's in everyone's best interest to encourage expedition and to come to some resolution and things like that, because bottom line is, as Mr. Scherstrom said, it affects our property values, and that's what it's all about. And we want to see something get fixed and get done, and so that's going to be mine. I'm going to encourage you guys to try to work this out, and let's get this fixed up so that our community looks beautiful again. Commissioner Rosen?
From my conversation with Dean, who was willing to work on all of the issues, I suggest that we let them work the issues
Right.
and continue, take the work, once the issues are handled, and they seem to be getting to that point. When that's done, then by all means, pull the stop order off and let them get back to work.
We're going to get it. We'll do everybody. So, Commissioner Gidroy.
I agree with Commissioner Rosen, and the point I was trying to make, and I hope I did, is that there's specific items that were listed that need to be taken care of before anything can move forward. And Mr. Wetter did ask that we recommend the project stop order be withdrawn. It sounds like there's progress in that direction, in that there's agreement about the type of watering lines, about the drawings, about the getting together with the HOA and the city. Other than the fact that it hasn't been scheduled yet, if those things are, in fact, the way direction things are going to happen, then I agree. I think we could probably get things restarted. I would suggest to the council that provided those are actually put in writing and are met, we can go forward and should go forward. Thank you.
Commissioner Croy.
Yes, I'll just simply make a motion that we receive and file.
Okay.
8.1 as stated. As I stated before, I thought I was at a council meeting there for a minute. But I think the time for character assassination and comparisons is over. It's time to just make the city whole again. Thank you.
And Commissioner Holcomb, did you want to have any comments?
The only thing I would add is that I think that any discussion regarding variances or the meetings of the mind should be completely separate from any talk of detachment. I think it should be we should conduct ourselves with a civil tone and divorce any possible detachment from the issues at hand.
I agree. And also any of this blame and all that kind of thing. We don't need to see people's salaries. It's just, to me, it's unprofessional. Commissioner Gidroy.
One last remark. Since we do have a comprehensive list of what the items were that caused the work to be stopped, I believe it would be wise and beneficial to everybody who lives in the city to have that on the city website so they could understand what's going on rather than all the hearsay.
Can you second that receive and file?
And I do second the receive and file.
All right, so all in favor of receive and file the projects in progress, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we're going to go ahead and just move on. Thanks, everybody who came to speak on that item. Appreciate you being here. All right. So bear with me for 1 second. I think that we are now on item 8.2, thank you, which would be, I lost it. Hang on a second here. Thank you, there we go. Okay, and that's our California Youth Soccer and Recreation Development Grant application. I think what we'll ultimately be doing here is making a recommendation to the city council. So Director Lennox, do you want to tell us what this is about?
Sure. Actually, I'm going to turn the balance of the item over to Administrative Analyst Brittany Reyes to present it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lennox. Commission, this is a great opportunity from the State Department of Parks and Recreation. It is a soccer, baseball, basketball youth development program, not just soccer, but the city of Menifee has identified Alaladera Park as a project site to add athletic field lights and to increase the opportunity of the usage at the park and the field. And in order to submit an application, the state requires all applicants to certify by resolution the approval of the application before the submission to the state. And so that's what we are recommending or asking the commission to recommend to the city council. Also, I would like to announce that we will be having a community meeting to provide information as well as receive feedback from the community, especially the residents surrounding the project site that who may be affected. And that meeting will be held on September 13th at 6 p.m. at the K. Ceniceros Senior Center.
All right. How are you notifying the public on that? Is that through our website, or are we going to do a radius around the park?
All of the above. We have identified a radius around the park, and we are sending out letters, I am hoping by Monday, and flyers.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Great.
It will also be on our website. It is already on our website.
Okay. Thank you. So, commissioners, do you have any questions, or Commissioner Rosen?
I don't have a question. I'm ready to
I-
recommend that we adopt.
We do have some questions before
Oh,
you
I'm
get
sorry,
that
go
far.
ahead.
Just a quick question. What's the amount of the grant if we get it?
Maximum $1 million.
Like it.
And I have a question on our second page here. You kind of broke out two different costs, and one has LED lights versus HIDs, and it's about $100,000 difference. And so can we maybe get a little education as to the energy savings, or to justify, or what's the city's direction on that?
Yeah, the candle variance is not very much on those. It's The cost savings is about 30% on every fixture. But as you can see, the upfront capital is significantly more.
Yeah.
Some cities, some agencies have gone with the LED, and some have stuck with the HID. So it's a matter of preference.
And how about life expectancy? Isn't that really where you get your value?
Somewhat. That's not necessarily been completely proven yet. Not enough time has passed for the technology to show that it's significantly better than the halogen option.
Is there a difference in glare and things like that that might become a concern to the surrounding neighbors?
Well, the clarity, according to the Musco representative that we've met with, the clarity for those playing on the field is better. And then the ability to narrow in and zero down on your field of play with less spill is better with an LED. The number of fixtures can still be the same. It just means they're pointed a little more narrowly toward the field versus something catching a much wider area.
And do we anticipate receiving the full grant, or might we get a portion of it and then we'd have to start matching and things like that?
I'll let Bruni refer to that one.
Well, the maximum will be $1 million, and it's for construction costs. There is a preference given to agencies who match non-constructive costs, and so you get extra points for that. As far as how much you get depends on your project and how much you can prove that it's needed in the community, and so they would make that determination based on what you submit.
So there's a possibility that we may get a portion and then we'd have to match with Park Stiff or something like that. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, I say go for it, and good luck. I hope it happens.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments or suggestions? Marty, did you have a question?
I have a quick question. If the grant comes through, how much time do we have to use that money?
We have about 8 years,
Okay,
yes, of project completion.
that sounds good.
Marty, did you want to make that motion? I think it's to recommend, right?
Recommend that City Council adopt resolution number 16-588 to submit the grant application to the state and to delegate authority to the manager to conduct all negotiations, et cetera.
All right, we have motion. How about a second?
I second it.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we are moving on. Thank you very much. We are moving on to item 8.3, and this is discussion about the excess parkland dedication credits, something that we recently encouraged the city council to do, but it's been brought back by the request of Commissioner Rosen and seconded by myself because a couple of us are starting to think we may have made a mistake. So, Director Lennox, would you introduce this, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure, I think you actually summarized it well. This was adopted let me go back a little bit. Ordinance that was adopted was 193, and then at the August 4th meeting is when recommendation came from Commissioner Rosen to revisit the ordinance, and in particular the section 9.55.115. That's the newly added section that talks about the procedure for credit of excess park dedication to determine if it's still within the interest of the commission, and then ultimately the city council to include as it was previously presented, or to modify or even eliminate.
All right,
So.
very good, thank you. Commissioner Rosen.
Basically, I wanted to eliminate it. When we talk about giving somebody credit on a park, we are desperately in need of park land and use. I mean, to allow them not to have it because they put in an area that probably wasn't fully usable anyway, because a lot of the parkland that they give us, only a portion of it can be used for parks. The rest of it is only good for goats to climb. We really should not give them credit. All right? If they give us more, wonderful. all right, we'll send them a certificate saying thank you. But the idea of allowing them to give it to somebody else so that we get less later, I think we're nuts. That's as blunt as I can get.
All right.
I would recommend that we recommend to the city council that that be eliminated, that, I forget the number, whatever that separate excess number was.
That's right. Okay, so Commissioner Croy, go ahead.
Currently, do we have a number of future parks where this may come into play here? Is there an acreage total?
One that was recently approved, the Quimby Agreement actually came before this commission and then finally to City Council, was for all parks within the AMR development. The excess amount was 0.77 acres, and that was the only one that was really eligible under the new ordinance. And then beyond that, there are two additional ones in the future. One is the Menifee Heights location, which has approximately acre and a half of excess dedication, I believe. And then the third one is the potential for the Cimarron Ridge project to have excess acreage of less than 1 acre. So it is not common, and we don't foresee any others in the near future, but new maps come in daily.
And can we, as a matter of policy, can we limit this by being involved very early in the design, saying, you know, if you're required 2.75 acres, please bring us a plan that shows us 2.75 acres of parkland?
Of course, every time a map is reviewed and they provide a plot plan, we have the opportunity to look at that open space first and then overlay it with the grading plan or for rough grading to determine if that is usable space and meets the minimum dedication requirement. If it is to such a small amount of qualified area, we always have the opportunity to inform the developer that we are not interested in what they're offering, and they either can redraw their map or pay us the in lieu fee instead. And so there's that opportunity on the front end.
My point being is that I really, really want to get away from making those water quality basins into soccer fields.
So before we go to Commissioner Rosen, I want to say a couple things. I'm glad that our Councilman Leesmeyer is here. He and I sat next to each other as planning commissioners way back when. And I used to appreciate it when a project would come in, commercial development, and they were required to have 100 parking spaces, and the developer says, I'm going to give you 125. And we go, hey, that's good. Almost like a density trade-off. There may have been something else over here that we didn't care for too much, but the extra 25 lots or spaces made it a little more palatable. Same thing with the extra park dedication. So like you had just said, can't we encourage developers to design their project to be dead on with exactly what they're going to do? And sure, that's good advice, but take for instance the Menifee Heights project. That thing was designed way back when, probably 5-6 years ago at least. And some of these projects are old projects that have been designed and the county approved, and they're still sitting on the shelf, but they're going to come to us. And so the fact is, we're most likely, just like in Menifee Heights, we would have got that extra acre no matter what, similar to some extra parking spaces at a commercial project. It's the same thing. It's just a nice little extra that the community gets. So on the parking spaces, the community's happy because they're not fighting looking for parking spaces. It's a better design, it's a better project, and it's a nice little bonus that you get for free. Same thing with having a little bit of extra park. With Menifee Heights, they would have given us that extra acre no matter what. I think they've discovered a surprise windfall when they were told, oh, by the way, you're going to get a credit you could sell to another developer. And they went, well, we didn't even know we were going to get that. Okay, cool. And so if it wouldn't have been there, we would have got it. And now instead, it's something that's going to be sold, and it'll be one less acre of park somewhere else. And so that is a loss to the community, which would have been a win. That's kind of my opinion on it.
I agree.
I 100% agree with you. I don't need to say another word.
it
We did
really,
take a step in the wrong direction to begin with.
it really became,
Mistake.
see, and when it came to us at first, it was like, that sounds fair, we'll go ahead and give them what they, if they give us some extra, let's keep it even and let them sell it. But now that we've seen it in place, with Menifee Heights was a perfect example of an extra acre we would have gotten no matter what, and now it's a break-even thing because he's gonna sell it to somebody else. So we're taking away our own bonus and calling it, we're going from an free extra to a break-even.
We're,
Depriving somebody else of that acre.
That's right.
and we're definitely not moving in the right direction, trying to get 5 instead of 1.5.
It's always better to get more if we can, just for the sake of the people that enjoy parks. Director Lennox?
Sure. To provide a little context and history to how the original Quimby and mitigation ordinance came about before discussing anything or adopting anything relative to excess dedications. The original ordinances were drafted in a way that they were silent on the issue of credit. And that was called out to us actually at the advice of the city attorney because in their experience, most municipalities, most governments have to have something that references what to do when a developer provides you more than what they're required to. In essence, the city has to provide them something back. It doesn't mean it has to be money. It doesn't mean it has to be in what we've done here, which is a credit they can sell somewhere else. But we have to at least recognize that they're giving us something more. So what I'm getting at is if the recommendation from the commission is to remove this section before drafting something to bring back as a revised ordinance, I would confer with the city attorney first to see if we aren't opening ourselves up to some type of litigation from developers who have an expectation. And I'm glad that the chair brought up the Menifee Heights project. It actually was the first one that actually requested a credit of some sort. And they were actually quite adamant that they deserved something for the excess that they had provided. And that's what started this discussion. So we knew it was going to be rare. We knew it was going to be infrequent. But it actually was the catalyst to get this ball rolling. So I'm just providing that so you have some context. And no matter what the outcome of this, I'm certainly going to have to check with our city attorney to find out what legally are we required to provide as a minimum in the ordinance as a result.
All right, thank you for looking into that. I'd like to see maybe a comparison of what some other cities do as well. I'm assuming that there's some cities that just accept extra parking spaces and they're happy with it, or accept extra parkland and they're happy with it, and that they don't have a legal obligation to do anything about that. I don't know, I'm curious, so thank you for looking into that. I'd like to be educated on that. Commissioner Gidroy.
I've done a very unscientific look on the internet to try and find other cities that give credits. I only found Petaluma. And what they're doing is giving park improvement money back to developers if they have excess land. But that was the only thing I found. I know I'm not scoping out the whole state, but it was very hard to find anybody who was doing it. Just wanted to bring that out.
So what's the procedure from here then, Director Lennox? Will you be coming back to us after you've spoken to the attorney and kind of give us an update on where we are?
Well, I think first, if the concurrence from the commission is to totally remove this section, we'd want to vote on that so that we can use that to go and do our research.
Tonight, vote tonight?
Yes,
Okay.
if that is the desired outcome from the commission, yes.
We should probably hear from Commissioner Holcomb, make sure he's in agreement.
Well, as one that's kind of coming in at a right angle on this, I do agree with Marty's characterization of it, probably not as emphatically, but my general thought is that we should get out of the business of giving away something and getting less or nothing in return.
Especially since we need it so badly.
So,
Good point,
those are my thoughts.
good point. Marty, did you have
I'm
anything else?
prepared to make a,
And then Rick did.
I just have
if
one
we're ready for it.
Actually, let's let Rick.
Absolutely, go ahead.
quick question. So I just want to make sure, the ordinance that's in the packet here, this is the ordinance as written, correct?
As adopted, yes, that's it.
Because there are good things in the ordinance, and I want to make sure those don't go away, such as phasing and not, having a master builder be responsible for it, so we get away from the situation down on Evans Road.
Yeah, I think we're just asking to.
Yeah, there's good
Just
things in here. I
115.
want to preserve those. And my other thought was gone now, so thanks.
Sorry. So I think we're just asking to redact or omit that section 115 from that, is that right?
That's exactly what we want. And only that piece. So I make a motion that we remove that section. Not give credit for excess park dedication to
Okay.
anyone. Should not.
Should the word maybe redefine?
You want to redefine it?
I think
How?
we need to just omit that.
I would just take it out.
And then start from
Yeah, that way everything else is intact
Yeah.
and the good things that you like all stay. We're
Yeah.
just talking about
Removing
omitting
that wording.
9.55.115.
Take it out, there's no interpretation then.
Right. Which would make it the way it was before
We
2 months ago,
started, yeah.
correct?
You need a second.
Robert's like,
I'll second.
I'll be home in a half hour.
You have a second.
Second. I will
All
second.
right. So Rosen and Croy seconded. All in favor? Aye. And any opposed? All right, it's unanimous. All right, so now we're,
We do need to apologize, for making that mistake,
yeah.
because I know it's extra work for you.
I do.
I am
apologize.
sorry.
Yeah. It was hard to see the ramifications of it until after
Yeah, I
saw
agree.
it in effect and went, oh, God, what have we done? All right, so item number 9, Community Services Director comments.
I have none tonight, other than to announce the grand opening of the SAFE program, which is part of the, and I'm going to refer to Bruni on this because I always forget the name of the program. Go ahead.
Living Healthy, Building Communities.
It's a program that was funded through the Valley Health Systems grant that we received this year for last year for $50,000 on September 1st at 10 a.m. and over at Lazy Creek. And it'll be a dedication and a grand opening of the fitness stations, the walking trail, and then, of course, the garden enhancements back at KC. And so we will ensure that we send an invitation out to all of you if you haven't already gotten it. And that is coming up, obviously, very soon. Same day as the next commission meeting. So if you're able to make both, we would love to see you.
Thank you, Robert. Next, item 10, Commissioner reports. Anyone?
No, not me.
All right, I don't either. So we'll move on. Future agenda requests from commissioners. Marty, did you want to add something?
I would like to put on the agenda for discussion a menorah lighting ceremony sometime in December, to be determined at a later time.
All right,
For discussion.
all right. For discussion, very good. Anybody else have anything else they want to add? Hearing none, we are going to go to 12, which is adjournment, and I want to thank everybody for their patience tonight and keeping cool heads during emotional portions of the meeting, so thank you, everybody.